What's up, the world? It's your boy Tommy Mav. I came to give you guys my thoughts, because my thoughts ain't your thoughts. And it just came to really just explain something to people who I think are not really using their brains. I'll say this: everybody on the planet has they have a right to their opinion. Now, whether or not that opinion is good or bad is up to other people to decide, but you have a right to it. The problem that I have is that when people are under the impression that their opinion somehow, like they have a monopoly on opinion, as if their opinion is the only opinion that matters, and anybody's opinion that doesn't agree with theirs, they think in their mind they have legitimate reasons for disagreeing. This is the problem I have with most Jordan fans that I deal with. They like to keep the argument in the realm of subjective, because if I keep the argument in the realm of subjective, I never really have to prove anything I say, because at the end of the day, it just comes down to my opinion, which makes me a narcissist, right? Because truthfully, I just believe me saying Jordan is better, and you say, okay, so what was he better at? And every time you ask him what was he better at, the only thing they can say is something that is subjective. Scoring. It's like, okay, in what way was he a better scorer than LeBron? You say, well, he was what? Say what he had a better mid-range shot. Okay, but you realize a layup and a mid-range shot, the points are the same. You only get 2 points for either one. So I don't understand why you're acting as if because someone can shoot a mid-range shot, it somehow alleviates them from ever having to it alleviates the responsibility of explaining why a layup is not as valuable as a mid-range shot. Because Jordan could shoot a turnaround shot, it does not change the fact that LeBron is a better attacker of the rim. So if LeBron is a better attacker of the rim because he's bigger and he's quicker, I mean, I wouldn't say he's quicker, but he's as fast, but he outweighs Jordan by about 40, 50 pounds, I would say that LeBron is closer to a Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, big at attacking the rim. He's a better attacker of the rim. Jordan used to have to change his shot to make his shot, but he wasn't as good at attacking the rim as LeBron is. Though he was exceptional at it, he wasn't as good. So you say, well, Jordan averaged this many points a game, and then you ask yourself the question, but Jordan also averaged this many shots a game. So you can't make the argument he's a better scorer because he scored more points when he shot more shots. So it doesn't, see how I say it stays in the subjective, but your subjective still is, by all metrics, a terrible opinion, because it can't be proven. And not only can it be proven, it can be easily disproven. LeBron average more shots. I mean, if you look at the differential between shots and points, LeBron averaged more with less shots. So you cannot. LeBron has a higher shooting percentage than Michael Jordan. Therefore, that means LeBron could have, if you want to go by the metrics, scored as much as Michael Jordan a lot sooner if he shot more. But LeBron didn't shoot as much as Jordan, so therefore LeBron did not average as many points per game as Jordan. He also didn't average as many shots per game as Jordan. So if he didn't average as many shots per game as Jordan, but he averaged the number of shots he averaged less than Jordan almost matched the number of points he averaged less than Jordan, you have to make the argument that LeBron could have averaged as much as Jordan if he shot more. This is easily proven. But LeBron didn't. That wasn't his game. He didn't try to score because he realized him scoring 45 is not going to make sure his team wins. Even though anytime his team needed him to score 45, he generally scored 45. So at the end of the day, you can sit here, you can have an argument with me where you're trying to state to me that Michael Jordan is a better scorer. You just can't prove it. You cannot prove it. LeBron was a better three-level scorer than Michael Jordan. He had a higher percentage at the rim. He had a higher percentage from the mid-range, and he had a higher percentage from the three. There was nothing Michael Jordan shot that had a higher percentage at. So Michael Jordan, in effect, was not more efficient at scoring at any level than LeBron was. So you can't make that argument. But you just keep saying from your subjective eye test that Michael Jordan was better. You see what I'm talking about when I say you stay in your subjective opinion, not what is actual, what you can actually prove. Because there's almost nothing a Jordan fan can prove. They say Michael Jordan was a better defender. It's laughable. You cannot say Michael Jordan was a better defender. Michael Jordan was never defended the top person on the other team. So therefore, you are asking us to assume that a man who could not cover the top person on the team and give you the same amount of value on the other end is somehow better, which doesn't make any sense because LeBron was still giving you the points that I was just mentioning. He was still scoring at the clip that I was mentioning to you while covering the best player on the other team on defense. He's doing that now at 40. Michael Jordan wasn't doing that in his prime. So you cannot make the argument he's a better defender. LeBron is taller, he's bigger, he can guard more positions, 1 through 5. I do not understand how you can make the argument that Jordan is a better defender. There is no substantial evidence to support that. Well, Jordan was a 9-time all defense. He played the two guard. The two guard. Outside of Dwayne Wade and Kobe Bryant, tell me another two guard during Michael Jordan's time that you say should have gotten defense, that should have gotten all defense over Michael Jordan. Can you even think of another good two guard that was good defensively during that time? Most of the best defenders were 3s, 1s, and 5s. You cannot tell me a 2 or a 4 a 4 is better than a 2, but 2 is possibly the worst defensive position on any team. The worst defender is usually a 2 guard. So to sit up there and try to make the argument and Michael Jordan is somehow proven that he's a better defender because he was a 9-time all defensive player playing the worst defensive position in basketball is laughable. There's a reason why he was there because there was nobody to compete with at that position. He shouldn't have got it anyways because he was generally not guarding not even the second best player on the other team. He was generally guarding the third best player. Scotty guarded the top perimeter player. Rodman was guarding the top interior player. So who was Michael Jordan guarding? He was guarding the second best perimeter player, which generally in those days was non-existent. A guy who probably couldn't even score, probably wasn't even averaging more than 9 or 10 points a game. So congratulations, you were able to do well in that instance. I'm not gonna say you're a better defender than one of the best defenders of all time in LeBron James. That's ridiculous and laughable. But they're going to say it because, again, it's subjective. And they can make an argument, not a good one. They can just make a argument. And when they can make a argument, well, LeBron's only 7 times. He was 9 times. Well, LeBron was 7 times at the top, generally the top position with the top defenders in it. So making your argument that LeBron 7 times in comparison to LeBron 7 times at 3 is equivalent to Michael Jordan's 9 times at 2 is ridiculous. It's a stupid argument to make. But they're going to make it because it's subjective, and it allows them to make that argument. People who argue Michael Jordan at his peak is better than LeBron James, also retarded. Okay, let's break this down. Michael Jordan played, I think, 13 seasons. He came in what was it, 84? Give or take a year and a half. I think his last season was with the Wizards in 2000, so I think he had like 14 seasons, right? You break that down. 14 seasons. Yeah, three championships. 3. In his first 10 years, I think he had 3. In his last 5 or 6 years, he had 3 more. So a lot of people remember he 3-peated, and then he skipped 2 years, a year and a half, whatever you want to call it, and he finished with 3 more. The Bulls were one of the best teams in the league without Michael Jordan. So let's point out that. All right, take Scottie Pippen off that team. Michael Jordan is not 3-peat twice. Okay, that's not happening. The pool of talent where Michael Jordan was dominating was horrible. Okay, stop saying the 80s was Michael Jordan's division. And if you're going to make that argument, then if LeBron came in 2003, he had no business being in the championship game at 23 or 24. I can't remember which one it was, but it was like his 5th season. Because Michael Jordan didn't make it to the championship by his 5th season. He wasn't. I don't even think he made it out of the second round of the playoffs by his 5th season. So, in all this stuff that y'all talk about, all this transitional from his shoes selling out and this, that, all this was happening. He was being called the best basketball player to ever play. All these things were happening in the 80s when his team was terrible. Okay, so let's first start out by saying that once again we're talking about subjective, and which they forget the truth for the sake of the narrative. Michael Jordan, at this time, was considered one of the best basketball players that ever played the game, and he hadn't won anything. So, this idea that people were saying Michael Jordan wasn't magic like Stephen A. tries to push is a lie. Nobody was saying that because nobody did that before Jordan fans. Jordan fans started this, you got to do the exact same thing as my goal for you to be better than him. That was their perspective. Nobody was saying, well, he has to be better than Dr. J. He has to be better than this one. He has to be better than that one for us to get. No, they were already calling him the greatest basketball player at the time. I remember in '92, when I was a kid, people were calling him the best basketball player to ever live. In '92. So the question breaks down to, at his peak, was he at his peak more dominant than LeBron? LeBron went to the finals for something like 11 years straight. I'm sorry. I'll take that. Well, he lost. I don't care. A lot of those teams had no business even being there. Michael Jordan had the best team in the league for years. So you're making the argument that because LeBron somehow overachieved with his roster, that it somehow means that it's a bad thing. Another way to look at that is Michael Jordan played with the best team in the league for 10 years. You could say for 10 years. And had 6 rings. LeBron played on different teams with different strengths, with different things. Never was consistently seen as having the top team in the league. Never. LeBron was never considered the favorite to win the championship. The years he won the championship, he was not favored to win it. So that means LeBron did more with less, because LeBron has 4, Michael Jordan has 6, but LeBron has way more finals appearances than Michael Jordan. LeBron has more playoff victories. LeBron has more series winning. He's better in Game 7s, but we'll get to that later. But we're just talking about this idea that his peak was better, Jordan's peak was better than LeBron's peak. No, it wasn't. You cannot make that argument at all, because Jordan never had any rivals during his time. There was no rivalries. Nobody, at most of the season, if Michael Jordan played, people assumed he was going to win the championship. Not because of Michael Jordan, but because how dominant the Bulls were. Ron Harper always was known as one of the dudes that they had to put on Michael Jordan, because he was such a good defender and a great coach. He was a great scorer, which people forget, and he was a great defender. So you got Ron Harper, Scottie Pippen, who is arguably the best two-way player to ever play the game, Rodman, who is arguably the best rebounder and best defensive forward probably to ever play the game, and Michael Jordan, who is widely considered in a lot of these people's mind the greatest player to ever play the game. Tell me, in most cases, that you're not going to be able to win more championships than the next best team. Because the reason the Celtics were dominant, because they were that much better than everybody else outside of the Lakers. The reason why the Lakers were dominant is because they were that much better than everybody outside of the Celtics. So it was always the Lakers or the Celtics until the Pistons started to make trades and make moves so that they ended up with a really good team. Then they started winning, because the Celtics and Lakers aged out and the Pistons were aging into their dynasty. Then Michael Jordan got Scottie Pippen. Once Michael Jordan got Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant, then the power shifted to Chicago. But not immediately. But then they took Mahorn off of the Pistons, which left them a gap in the middle, which allowed Pippen and Jordan to attack the rim more. Therefore, that gave them the edge in the series, and they edged out the Pistons. The Pistons won 2. Jordan and the Bulls won 3. After the Pistons fell off a cliff, it wasn't a rivalry where they were both going back and forth. The Pistons won from the end of the early '90s to the late '80s, and then the Bulls owned for 3 seasons. They got the 3. Well, he won 1 more than Isaiah, and then he retired. Right? Then he came back a year and a half later, lost to the Orlando Magic. Then they went and got Rodman and Harper. At that point, now nobody can compete with them anymore. So the point I was trying to make is not to make the argument that Michael Jordan is not an amazing player. That's never the argument. The argument we're making is when you're talking about greatest of all time, you are starting to split hairs. And when you start to split hairs, the subjective stuff doesn't work. You got to actually say things you can prove. And when they say things like Michael Jordan's peak was higher than LeBron's peak, prove it. You cannot prove that. That is subjective, and it comes down to what you believe is more important. If you believe the fact that Michael Jordan was dominant, that there was no other good team at the league at the time Michael Jordan was dominant, that means his peak was higher. That's retarded. Because if you had a chance out of going back and looking at both of those eras, most people would choose LeBron's era. LeBron's era was way more exciting. It was way more competitive. It was way more. It was way more engaging than when the Bulls played. They didn't have any rivals. They didn't have anybody who challenged the Bulls. So at the time, the narrative surrounding LeBron at his peak was way better than Jordan at his. LeBron's peak was sustained way longer without any interruptions, and his feats were way more impressive than Michael Jordan's was. Michael Jordan did nothing but shoot a lot. So if you want to make the argument that Michael Jordan's peak was higher than LeBron's peak, that you can make that argument, but you can't prove it. But you know what I can prove? LeBron went more finals than he did. LeBron had a higher percentage of Game 7s. In Game 7s, which people will point out, well, Michael Jordan never had to get to Game 7. Well, Michael Jordan didn't have to get to Game 7 because the competition wasn't as hard. So no, he didn't. His competition sucked, so he was able to dominate. That does not make his peak higher. That just means his competition was less. So when you make the argument, well, LeBron wasn't clutch. By every metric, you cannot prove that. Jordan was more clutch. No. Nobody scrutinized Jordan when he missed. They just deified him when he made it. So the shots that you see are him hitting the shot over Craig Elo, him just making the shot here. Same thing with Kobe. They glorify the 1 or 2 shots they make, and they ignore the 20 shots they miss. LeBron is the opposite. They glorify the 20 shots he missed, and you have to actually go look at a compilation to remember all the shots he hit. So LeBron has always been working against the system, because there's always been a rabid group of guys who have always been against anybody being compared to Michael Jordan, because they want Michael Jordan to be solidified as the greatest of all time. And when somebody challenges that, and there hasn't been many people who have challenged, but LeBron was the first person that actually challenged and have a really good case for it. So now they don't even want to give, so they keep throwing stuff in the mix to try to make it seem as if LeBron longevity somehow is hurting his case, which is stupid. We're gonna just ignore the fact that LeBron has been bounced the last 2 years. Are you making the argument that LeBron was the reason the team got bounced? Because that would be idiotic. Because you can't be dumb enough to believe that the team would be anywhere near the playoffs without LeBron at 40. So if you're making the argument that LeBron is the reason the team is losing, then I don't have anything to say to you. A guy that at 40 is guarding multiple positions, who is playing multiple positions, multiple roles, in which he's playing both distributor, he's playing rebounder, he's playing he's their interior presence, he's their point guard. So I don't understand how a guy can mean so much for a team in a multitude of ways, yet still get the lion's share of the blame when they lose. At 40, the guy is literally playing with his son. And your idea is that you should hold it against him when they lose. And you're acting as if the person telling you you're insane is the problem. At some point, you got to evaluate whether or not you would be making the same argument if he was not being compared to Michael Jordan. Let's make the argument that he is not being compared to Michael Jordan. You're just talking about LeBron James as a basketball player. If you look at the feats that LeBron James is achieving, the things that he is doing, the way that he is doing them, and he had no connection to Michael Jordan. It was a foregone conclusion that Michael Jordan was the greatest to ever live. Would you be as hostile and as critical of LeBron James? You wouldn't. You wouldn't be bringing Kobe into the discussion, which is laughable. Kobe was an amazing player. He was not a top 10 player. Top 12, maybe. Not top 10. There is no statistical metric that you can use to say that Kobe Bryant was the best at anything. Top 10 at anything. So you can make the argument however you want, but you're going to have a hard time trying to convince somebody that he's better than Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain. I mean, come on. Michael Jordan, LeBron James. I mean, you could go on and on and on before you get to these people talk about Kobe is the second best player of all time. Second best player of all time. Kobe Bryant. There's certain arguments that you lose credibility in making the argument. Meaning people don't even pay attention to you after you make the argument because it's such a stupid argument. Kobe being in the top 5 is that argument. You have no ground to say that. Because he's the closest thing. So you're playing this game where you're saying, in order to be the greatest, you got to pattern your game after Michael Jordan. And Kobe is the closest thing to Michael Jordan. So in your opinion, because of that, he's the second best player of all time. See how I say they live in the subjective? And they use their subjective opinion to make it and try to force you into believing their subjective opinions are facts. That is subjective. That you believe Michael Jordan is the number 1 player, so therefore we should have the metric of believing the person closest to Jordan is somehow on that number 2. That's retarded. There is no grounds to even make an argument that Jordan is better than LeBron outside of saying he won more team championships. When you talk about individual players, when you talk about a player that adds or brings more to their team, LeBron James brings more to his team than Jordan ever brought to his. LeBron could do what Jordan did. Jordan could never do what LeBron did. He could never guard 1 through 5. He could never play in the interior like LeBron plays in the interior. He can never run an offense running it from a point guard standpoint like LeBron. He can't do the things LeBron could do. LeBron could go out and score 40. LeBron had an entire playoff series where he averaged 40. So it does not, the stuff that Michael Jordan can do, LeBron can do. The stuff that LeBron do, Jordan cannot do. So you can make your arguments all you want, but when you start going into the subjective, you can stay there because ain't nobody going there with you. Because I'm not going to make your opinion more valuable than mine. Because in your opinion, your subjective opinion somehow helps you win an argument that is based in fact, that can be proven to the contrary. If I can prove it to the contrary, you can't make your subjective opinion more important than my facts. And everything the Jordan people hinge their entire arguments on are perspective. I see it this way. Style over substance. This, that, all these extra things that have absolutely nothing to do with proof. Prove it. And it can't be, prove it without using the words I think, from my perspective. Use it by saying Jordan does this better because of this. You cannot do it. Lower shot percentage from every spot. Lower shot from the clutch. Worse when it came to playoff series. Worse, went to less finals. What only metrics you have has a terrible winning percentage without Scottie Pippen. So every subjective opinion you want to make, Jordan was better because his team did better. Jordan was not good before Pippen got there, and he wasn't good when Pippen wasn't there. Without Scottie Pippen, meaning in the games in which Scottie Pippen did not play in. This is during the peak. When Scottie Pippen did not play in games, Michael Jordan's winning percentage was below 500. So generally, if Scottie Pippen didn't play, Michael Jordan didn't win. So you can have your perspective, you can have your subjective opinion, but it does not mean that I have to agree with your opinion. I have every right to stand and say, I don't believe that's true. I don't second that opinion. I think that opinion is not true. I think that opinion is just that. It's your perspective. But your perspective is misguided and it's wrong. So if you want to make the argument that you feel your argument should be held to a higher standard, or your opinion has more value than mine, then knock yourself out. But I'm not gonna subscribe to that thinking, because I don't have to. I can look at the facts and say, no, I can make an argument to the argument you're making. I can make an argument to that argument. I can make an argument to that argument. Now prove it. You just a LeBron lover, okay? You're a Jordan lover. So why is my opinion disregarded because I'm a LeBron fan, but your opinion is somehow valuable and you're a Jordan fan? It's like they live in this subjective bubble in which their opinion is more important than other people's. And they feel as if, because they feel a certain way, that it's wrong to feel opposite of that. No, you can feel whatever you want, but in the end, you got to be able to support what you're saying with facts. And if you can't, then of course people are going to be like, I don't think that's true. Prove it. Anyways, if you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Subscribe, comment, and like if you haven't liked it. All right, y'all. Peace.